Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Mindset Check. Today I have Jessica Foote on. She is an amazing woman, powerful. She's doing amazing things. She has a beautiful family. I wanted to have her come on the show and just chat about how she's been able to persevere through life and how she gets up every morning and how she gets the motivation and the inspiration to do all the things that she does. So Jessica, thanks for being on today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
You and I go way back, and I've had the pleasure of working with you, knowing you, seeing you and your family on social media. Obviously, I love social media for that aspect. I mean, it just allows me to stay connected to people, even if I don't see them every day. Obviously, there are challenges in life,
hmm
and you come up against maybe a challenge every day. Especially when you have a family, you're basically helping manage their lives as well, right? Your kids' lives and helping them navigate through life. Talk to me about what does your morning look like, and where do you draw your inspiration from?
That's a great question. I definitely come against challenges every day, and it's really important to start the morning off right. That's the best way to be prepared for whatever life will throw at you. And I actually do have a morning checklist, and I have it. I store it in the app called Tick Tick, and it's really cool because it's an existing list that I can check off, and then it doesn't erase each day. First of all, I wake up extremely early. That's the key, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
to having a successful morning routine. Is it needs to be uninterruptible.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I wake up at 4:59 a.m. Because I'm a member of the 5 a.m. club with Sharon Cerveza. That's an accountability call where it helps me to get up, and that way I can honor my morning routine.
Okay, so you're up early. I'm such a big believer in early morning. I
Yes.
feel the best when I wake up early. I can get in several hours without, any interruptions. I'm a big believer in morning routines. They create so much momentum and power for you. So how do you do that? I
Yeah.
mean, obviously you wake up because you have that accountability call, but
hmm
I mean, is that something like if you didn't have that, do you think you would still be able to get up, or maybe there's something beyond that
Yeah.
call that gets you up?
Yeah, it's really funny. That call is just so repetitive, and I know that it's happening every day. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it's this weird little accountability thing I have, and
Yeah.
nobody really knows if I'm there or not.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like a built-in reminder. But really, the key is starting the night before. So, and
Mm-hmm.
they talk about on the 5 a.m. club how greatness is a choice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
every day I have to choose to be great by going to bed at a reasonable time in order to wake up powerfully early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be hard when you've got a spouse or kids or
Mm-hmm.
clients still texting you, at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night,
Mm-hmm.
etc. But it's really just that choice to be great and that choice to start my day early enough where I have time to think and get going properly.
So if you could tell me quickly a summary of what the 5 a.m. club is, if someone's watching or listening, depending on what platform they're tuning in, what is the 5 a.m. club? If you can give me a quick summary.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyone can join. It's at 5amclub.net. But basically, everybody dials into a conference line. So you don't need to look perfect. So you dial in on your phone. And it's pretty cool because Sharon says good morning like a million times. And then it's just a really quick 5 minute motivational piece, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
like just a really quick thought or some example or story that he thinks will inspire us.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's Sharon, sometimes it's another thought leader, often in the real estate industry, but sometimes not. Sometimes just a thought leader. And they share something that's really positive to get you going and get you thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're off on your day. So it's only 5 minutes or less, and it just really gets me up and going. It's a digital community, if you
Yeah,
will.
yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. I've heard of it's 5 a.m. club, but it's a little bit longer than that 5 minute, right? So it's like wake up at 5 a.m. The first 20 minutes, I think it's you move your body. The second 20 minutes, you're journaling, and then the last 20 minutes, you're meditating, praying, or whatever.
hmm
Is this something that you've always done for yourself? Were you, when as a young girl, were you drawn to this type of structure, this type of like approach in life? You know, you seem like you would be. You're such a go-getter, but you're also very, you know, a lot of times people think structure means that you know, you have this energy that's just kind of more structured and not as light, right?
Right.
But
Right.
you know, I have my thoughts on that, but I would love to have you talk on that if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so funny that you ask what I was like as a little girl because my daughter is 7 and she started doing some of the things that I used to do. So it's really funny to see her doing that. For example, if there's like a major event, she'll like count down towards the event and she creates her like scratch calendar thing, you know. So it's
Mm,
just fun to see that. But I've always kind of been motivated. I definitely am more of a morning person, so I have that advantage. So I used to just hop out of bed, you know, like
uh-huh.
total optimist. Like literally, I would literally hop out of bed and just be ready to roll.
Yes.
Um, but you know, when you become an adult and you have kids and you know, when you're running a brokerage like I am and you've got agents and clients that, you know, have got a lot of crazy stuff happening, like you have to really like tap deeper and like
Mm-hmm.
rethink your schedule, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
each child that's born and with each like new level that you ascend with your career, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of have to dig deeper and figure out,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what is my morning routine? What does it need to look like? And how can I keep myself motivated and change my routine, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
and have it serve you in this phase of life that you're in.
Yeah, you almost have to adapt. With kids, you're always adapting. Like, you know, like this, what worked this week might not work next week. And so with your structure, at least you have something that's controllable. Your morning's controllable for the most part. Now, granted, there are those moments where your kid wakes up at 4 because of something, right?
Right.
But for the most part, right, you can control that time frame. You have your children. You are helping them navigate through life. You have to
Mhm.
have some a structure, but something that's flexible, something that's adaptable. How have you kind of been able to do that? I mean, quite frankly, I'm interested from a parent's perspective, but also
Yeah.
from a productivity, you know, standpoint as well.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the biggest thing is in life, it's so critical to remember that there's seasons in life. Just
Mm,
like there's a season, you know, there's seasonality in our real estate business, right? And there's, you know, seasons each year. And it's the same way with life. And so what I found as a parent, as a business person, just as an individual, if I'm not completely honest and present in the season that I'm in, then everything is awry. And you know, there are seasons where I cannot wake up at 4:59. You know, that's just the season I'm in right now. But there are times where you have to just adjust to whatever is happening in your life. So, for example, like usually my morning routine includes like working out, and there have been times where I've met a trainer and I've been working towards a goal. And right now, I mean, this year I just kind of got hit with like a bunch of health stuff.
mm-hmm,
And although I'm super healthy now and I've come through this, I've just had to just, you know, for this season, for this month of the year, like I am not working out, you know?
mm-hmm,
I'm going to wake up and I'm going to be kind to myself and
mm,
read and be
mm-hmm,
still, but I'm not going through harsh workouts or
mm-hmm.
intense training right now. I will in the future, but right now it's just that's not what I've been dealt this year. So
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah,
But
totally.
I've just found that when I try to fight whatever season I'm in, and if my morning routine doesn't align with what the needs are that are going to come during the day, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
if I'm prepared for what's really going to happen, then it's just all chaos. You know, there's like no peace.
Yes. Yes. Oh man, and talk about the power of having a peaceful home. I know you work from home part of the time as well, as do I. That is
Hmm.
like, you know, number one and top of my priority list. Like if my
Yes.
home is not at peace and I'm trying to work,
Yep.
I get little to nothing done. So I almost have to drop what I'm doing and then help, even if it's 5-10 minutes, help the current situation, help us all find peace and
Yes.
restore that balance, and then be like, okay, now I can get back. Though once I'm in my office, I'm just so focused that anything that takes me out is like very distracting to me. So that's been something I've been growing with, or you know,
Hmm.
finding some growth around, was is just navigating working from home a lot, having some screaming children in the back sometimes because
Right.
they're navigating, right? They're figuring life out too.
Hmm.
And so, like you said, different seasons, different stages. That's such a beautiful testament to the fact that you're a real person, right? A lot of times,
Yeah.
this is why we do what we do here at the show, is just like just to show how real life is. I think oftentimes we get lost in this like highlight reel in social media, and though there's beauty in that too,
Hmm.
I like to shed some light on the fact that, like, hey, you can run a successful business like you are, and still, run into some hiccups, and then
Oh, yeah.
how are you navigating through that? So, quickly, this run through your morning routine, how you set yourself
Yeah.
up, and then I'd love to just kind of talk about maybe as an example, and then how you can pivot, during the day, right? Because it's one thing to set yourself up, but how do you
Mhm.
keep your day going well, and how do you end your day well? So how do you start your day well?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I wake up at 4:59 typically. Usually it's 6 to 7 days a week, but if I'm tired, I give myself a little more grace. But before I head upstairs to my office to hop on that call, I'll grab like, and this is where the flexibility comes in, right? Like obviously when you first wake up, you're usually like dehydrated or something, right? So I
Yes.
either have like a full glass of water. If I'm hungry, I'll have a green smoothie, and I do those like daily harvest smoothies
Mm-hmm.
that are super easy. Or I'll just have a cup of coffee really quick, and then I hop on the call. And like I mentioned, it's a super inspiring message. The other like major thing that I do every day, it's kind of like an obsession, is I always read the verse of the day in the U Version Bible app.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of cool because I can just quickly read something from the Bible. It's again really inspiring, kind of keeps my compass on the right, on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have a lot of time or if I'm just in a funky mood, I'll sometimes just read that verse and that's it. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
think about it for a little bit and call it a day and say a quick prayer.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, what I do, and this has been a really interesting exercise, I usually read one chapter in Proverbs every day.
Mm-hmm.
And since Proverbs has 31 chapters, like usually each month I'll just correspond, like I'll read chapter one on, the first day of the month and so on.
Okay.
And it's just been really crazy. Like I have had some seasons in life where in my business, I haven't really known like how to treat an employee that I have or an agent that I have that's having a challenge, or
Mm-hmm.
like, I might be stressed about money or whatever the issue is. And I cannot tell you like how valuable it's been to like read through Proverbs because it's like a
Mm-hmm.
wisdom book. So I just feel like I'm a really wise person because of
Mm-hmm.
it. And I've been doing this for a few years now. It's just so helpful because when I come through challenges, like you said, throughout the day, like I've read through Proverbs so many times, like I know how to combat things that come up,
Yeah.
when it gets weird. So
Yeah, yeah. No, that's beautiful. I mean, so
yeah.
so you find, and I love that you find wisdom, strength, inspiration from the Bible. As do I. That's such a beautiful scripture. Is that something that you were kind of raised in, that looking for that connection spiritually, that looking to the text as a way to inspire you? Is that something that you that kind of evolved in practice?
Yeah, it's so funny. I actually was raised in the church since I was 2 weeks old. I've been going to church.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is a point in everyone's life where you have to decide like, is this what I'm doing for me? Or
Mm-hmm.
is this just part of our like family routine
Yep.
my parents have forced on me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really been this like beautiful journey where sometimes I feel like I'm like totally connected to God, and other times I feel like I'm generally straying. And what's been the most incredible thing is that throughout my life, I have constantly felt God like pulling me back if I have issues. So for one thing I've learned kind of related to this whole like Proverbs thing and my like weird obsession I do with reading the verses every day. There was a time in my life where I just felt so drained and empty every single day. I mean, and I was in real estate at the time, and I just like couldn't even make it through the day. I was just like exhausted
Mm-hmm.
and just, how it can be
Oh
sometimes.
yeah. For sure.
And I was like literally, I think I said out loud, like, what is it? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how can I even make it through the day?
Mm,
And I remembered it was a thought that I had, but it like wasn't my thought. And it was like, you are spiritually anorexic right now because you have not been reading the word, which is like my bread of life. And I
mm-hmm,
was like, whoa, that's crazy. And so it was like that time or in season in my life where I was really feeling drained and I didn't have what I needed to like deal with what I had going on in my
mm-hmm,
life, which a
mm-hmm,
lot of it was really good stuff at the time. It was that weird like inner voice that I heard, and I realized at that time that like, and the Bible talks about how like Jesus is the word, and like that's how like you like can be sustained
mm-hmm,
literally like from
mm-hmm.
on a spiritual level.
Yes.
So just like we need food every day,
Mm-hmm.
it's like we need a little bit of the word every day. And so it's kind of again a little bit out there, but
No, I love it.
I roll.
What I like about that is like you're taking a time of devotion for you to connect using the Bible. I 100% believe in the human need for us to connect to God, to something bigger than ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
it's beautiful when you feel like that compelling voice,
Yeah.
because I don't think everybody, like, just like everybody's in different seasons and stages, like I don't think everybody's there, right?
Right.
I think it's beautiful when you're there because you can feel that connection and you start to almost feel it at a much deeper level. So you're setting yourself up in the morning, you're reading, you're
Yeah.
praying. Talk to me about like that's like that deeper connection, spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me, this topic, because this part of our lives is almost experienced individually. There's no
Right.
way that you can experience the same spiritual connection with God, like, let's say, your spouse, even if you guys are
Right.
just amazingly close. You're always going
Mm-hmm.
to have a different sense of that. I love the footprints in the sand. I don't know if that's even
Yeah.
anything you're familiar with, but like
Yeah.
I feel like anytime I look at my life and I'm frustrated, I realize, similar to your story earlier, that I'm depleted
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, or rather, I'm depleted, and I need to fill my life with with spirituality, God
Mm-hmm.
presence. I look back in my life and I'm like, wow, look at all the footprints that I was just
Yeah.
complaining about, that I have no support, and
Yeah.
like none of this could have happened, right, without God. And so for me, gratitude has always been such a huge
Yes.
part of that. Like, if
Yes.
you want to get spiritual, you get grateful, and there's almost like no way you cannot feel there's no way you can feel disconnected from God. That's how I feel.
Seriously. It's so true. It's so true.
And so, talk to me, if you could, like, your spirituality. How does your how do you incorporate that? And then let's say you hit something in the middle of the day, totally throws you off, and you're human. Maybe you had a great day, so you can kind of attack this a little bit more strategically. I know
Mm-hmm.
we all have bad days where even our pivots are kind of hard to make, but what kind of strategies do you take? Do you have something you fall back to? Is it still kind of a work in progress? Like, let's say you hit this really big bump in the road. What do you do? How do you shift?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So, historically, it was food and wine,
Okay,
which
okay.
is not a
Hey,
healthy.
that's honest. Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's not a healthy way to approach problems. So I'm retraining myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely have learned that when I hit a roadblock, which honestly before this call that happened, I had a
Mm-hmm.
really strange call with somebody who's going through a lot in their life, and it just really, I'm such an empathetic person that it really threw me off,
Mm-hmm.
and they just had a lot of ingratitude, and it was just really bizarre,
Mm-hmm.
and I literally just had to physically step away from my computer,
Mm-hmm.
because it was a Zoom, and I just had to find a new environment, and I like to talk it out with someone. Obviously praying is good. I also just talked it out with my husband who works with me, and kind of tried to brainstorm. Like, I like to vent and talk about what I need to talk about, and then kind of strategize about, is the approach I'm taking one from, it's coming from like a place of ego where it's all centered
Sure.
around me, and
Yeah.
what this person did to me rather than, okay, how can I serve this person? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how did I maybe show up in not an ideal way, and what's the best way to move forward given what happened.
Yes.
So, I mean, I just try to create space,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure that I give myself time to process, whether it's talking to somebody else. Sometimes I journal it out,
Mm-hmm.
or write it out. That's really super helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did that before I talked to my husband Josh. I was like, I feel like I'm wasting my time trying to help, like
Mm-hmm.
wrote out all like the real things, because if you hold it in, it's just so toxic,
Right.
it
Right.
doesn't help.
Well, I know you. I know your character, and you're definitely an empath. You're just like I've seen you. So loving and caring. You just and if someone's just dumping on you,
Yeah.
you're probably like, okay, I'll listen, and then because your nature is to
Hmm.
like take everything in, you gotta somehow dump that somewhere else, like obviously not on anybody, but just and by journaling you kind of release that, by praying you release
Hmm.
that, right? You give it to God. And so for me, that's very strategic. A lot of times we can feel like, oh, we have to do something that feels more quote unquote powerful, like, oh, we have to just like act tough, like forget about it and act tough. Well, what happens is you keep pushing it down, what's going to happen, it's eventually going to burst, and you're going to have to deal with it at some point, and it's going to be uglier. So I love how you're kind of taking that and you know uh channeling that energy, or not channeling, but rather distributing that energy elsewhere versus you carrying it around. And that's like your
Yeah,
first step to find clarity.
it's actually really true. And we are all like electrical beings,
Mm-hmm.
and you do have to put that somewhere, because the worst thing is, and I've done this in the past, is like you pick up the kids from school and then you're just negative and grumpy with them,
Mm-hmm.
they don't deserve that. So you're
Mm-mm.
absolutely right. You have to channel that energy in a proper manner.
This last couple of years obviously have been a little bit challenging,
Yeah.
crazy amount of activity towards the end of
Hmm.
2020, and then obviously 2021 was super huge for you, in real estate really was on fire. How does someone like in the real estate industry manage that need to be available, right? It's almost like, oh
Hmm.
man, I have to be available 24/7, and I still have kids, and I still have you know recitals, and I still have whatever it is, right, for your kids. How do you deal with that in balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's been an ever evolving um, project to figure out how
Mm-hmm.
to manage that all, because we have had our best years ever in 2020 and 2021. And the biggest thing is that I've had to get really clear on what tasks and what commitments in my schedule absolutely have to be me, and then what does not have to be me. And in 2020 and 2021, I've let go of a lot of the things I was doing
Mm-hmm.
that just do not have to be me, and I have delegated them. So it's been like a releasing
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's not been easy. I keep trying to take back some of the
Sure.
tasks. That's been the number one thing, is just making sure that my calendar reflects my goals and my priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned from so many other people in the industry, about how they manage their schedule. I'm a student. I mean, I'm constantly listening to podcasts, and I'm willing to listen and read anything that people have to share about mastering their schedule, because that's what we've got. It's our life. So, yeah, I've just been really, really clear about what's important to me. And I schedule my kids, baseball games
Mm-hmm.
and whatever they have going on, ballet, it's in the calendar. And there's times where it doesn't have to be me that takes them, but the times where it does matter, I'm there. And I honor it just like I would any other appointment.
Yes.
So that's how I do it.
Talk to me about your drive from home to wherever you're going.
Yeah.
I envision you right now screaming, singing at the top of your lungs.
No. Yeah, it depends on what I have going on, but I'm either on the phone, cramming in phone calls, talking to people and taking care of business, or I am like singing Hillsong
Yes.
worship songs at the top of my lungs, because I'm just so grateful,
Mm-hmm.
like to like have breath and have just a killer thriving business and family. I mean, I'm just so grateful. So,
Is that gratitude, something that you've always had? Is it something that is continuing to grow and evolve? How, because I'll be honest, for me, I always felt like I was grateful. Like I felt like I was a pretty good person, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I would say if someone were to ask me how I feel now versus how I felt, even 5 years ago, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm completely different. I'll just share this real quick. So in 2019,
Yeah.
I was having probably the worst. I wasn't depressed or suicidal or anything like that for sure, but I was just not in a really good space mentally. At that point, I think I was literally I was literally trying to hold on to anything I could. Like, what is my strength at this point? Because I feel like I didn't
Yeah.
have any, and I reached out to, and obviously that was a long process, so it's not like it just was a quick turnaround. But,
Yeah.
I'd asked a friend who was a mentor of mine, and I kind of just laid it all out there, told him where I was and kind of how I felt, and the first thing he told me, which to this day I was like don't want to hear that. I did not want to hear that, which was
Mm-hmm.
he was like, you don't need to do anything right now other than just feel grateful.
Yeah.
Like feel grateful for what you do have, for who you are right now. And to this day I talk to him and I'm like, man, I'm gonna be honest, I hated that you said that. Like, because for
Yeah.
me, gratitude, for real, because for me, gratitude felt, at that time, felt soft. Now, I wanted something that's going to, like, just massively change my life, and I want it now. And gratitude just felt like a cop out, like,
Yeah.
weak. And now gratitude to me is like the most powerful thing in the world. To me, gratitude now has just transformed my life. And even the way I do business, the way I operate with my family, I'm much more present with my daughters. And, I tell people this story, and they're like, wow, you always seem like a positive guy. And I am, but even that has levels, and you can always improve, and you can always realize that there are moments where you realize, oh, I'm maybe not as positive as I thought I was. I was just smiling because that was my way to cope with life, right? You smile through it. But so digging deeper, like what you were talking about earlier, I think is powerful. How have you taken the moments, during COVID and the ups and downs, like to dive in deeper, to find more meaning in your roles as a
Yeah.
mom, your role as a business owner, as a leader.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a really interesting time in the world because it was so bizarre to me that like everything stopped,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I think I took for granted like the opportunity to meet with people and connect with people and what I did for a living and
Mm-hmm.
everything. But my initial response when it all started going down was like the first 2 weeks I thought, well, this is crazy, and I just kind of like took it easy. And then after 2 weeks when I realized like this is not going away and my kids are here to stay and
Yes.
we have like a daughter with asthma, so like I didn't feel comfortable like leaving the house.
Mm.
So I literally stayed in
Mm-hmm.
the house for 2 months because
Mm.
we just had no understanding what was going on. So
Sure.
what I did is I just made that a priority. I made sure like everyone in my family was at peace. I made
Mm-hmm.
sure like we had plenty of wine, food. I was actually super grateful that time that I was connected to so many real estate agents and brokers in New York
Mm-hmm.
because the week before it all went down, they were like, hey, Jess, stop everything you're doing. Do not work. Go to the store, like get what you need. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so cool to be connected to people that's kind of set us up for success. But anyway,
Right.
my biggest thing, honestly, once I realized that there was no leaving the house, there was no like making this situation go away. It was absolutely out of our control. I tried to create as much structure and consistency as I could
Mm.
in my own little bubble here.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure my office was ready to go and cleaned up. I just like increased the accountability.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I met with my assistant every morning at 6 a.m. On Zoom. And we literally would pray together over our clients, over the transactions, over our families
Mm-hmm.
for protection, for health, and just right mindset. And it was all quick,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'd go about the day. But I literally just worked from 6 a.m. to like 7 or 8 at night every day because I did not know what was going to happen. But when I was working, I was trying to be really intentional. I'd reach out to my clients and just make sure everybody was okay. And that kind of helped me to sustain because
Mm-hmm.
A, I was reaching out to people and so my business boomed. And B, I was coming from a place of like contribution and making
Yes.
sure like everybody else was good. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore I was good,
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there were clients that I would call and they were sick,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just turned it into gratitude for me, gratitude that I was healthy. So, it was a weird time, but I found some kind of comfort in realizing that God had me, He had my family, and prepared as much as we could. And we worked as hard as we physically
Mm.
could.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. For me, that takeaway is huge. For you pivoted, but then you looked where you could give, right?
mhm.
And there's this. Your kids are older, so you probably don't know this, but there's Daniel Tiger
Oh,
is
yeah.
yeah, okay, do you know? Okay. So Daniel Tiger, in one of his books, or well, not his books because he's a character, but one of the books
Yeah.
there where he's talking, there's a storm that happens and they go around the town, and his mom always has told him look for the helpers, right? And you can see people
Yeah.
picking up trees that were blown over or helping somebody who was injured.
Yep.
And for me, it's like look for the helpers, and like
Totally.
I think that so many people did that, to what you just did or what you just said you did, which was like, okay, I can't fight this. How do I continue? Like, how do I
Yeah.
continue for my kids? How do I continue for my clients? And you said, okay, where can I give? And actually, when you did that, like you got a lot, got to, here you go. Here's your best year ever.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank God. Oh my God.
Right. So you came
Yeah.
back, and I think it's like, you looked to give, you look to help. And that's a big part of my business right now. Is just like, how can I give, right? Like, and
Yeah.
I think when you approach your business that way, it's one, it's more enjoyable, but two, it's like you're able to connect with people, you're able to actually help on a deeper level than just make it feel super transactional.
And not so I'm not all Pollyanna. I was giving a ton and cooking a ton. And then
uh,
after COVID was like I mean, we still are in the throes of it, right?
right.
But like literally all this year, I just started cooking again. Like my poor family are like, Mom, when are you gonna cook? Because like when 2021 hit, I was like, I am done. I
Yeah.
am officially done. Like
Yeah.
I love you guys, but we're eating out or we're like doing simple things
Right.
because I just
Oh
cannot.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you should have hired a chef at that point, right? You're like, I'm
yeah,
done for right now. I'm
yeah.
too
You
I'm
can only
too
do
wiped
things
out.
for so long. Yeah,
Oh, I get it. And I only have two kids, and I know what that's like when you're trying to eat, and it takes a long time. It doesn't take 5 minutes to cook. At least not if
Mm,
you want to feed them good food, right? If you
yeah,
want to feed them something that's going to help them live longer, there's plenty of dead
yeah,
food out there. But if we're looking for our kids' health, then it's going to take a little bit
yeah.
of time. But hey, Jess, thank you so much. I've gone way, way, way over with you. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're fine.
But thank you so much for sharing, being vulnerable, and helping us, share a real story. Somebody who's gone through it, who's going through it, who still acknowledges the fact that you will still have some challenges, but it's how you approach it. It's what you do. It's
Hmm.
not the situation. It's how you respond, that matters most. So thank you so much, Jess. Appreciate you
Yeah,
so much. And
you too.
we'll have to have you back on here again soon.
I would love that. Have a good day.
All right, you too. Thanks, Jess.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye, David.